Now at 10, Freeman Health Systems announces its plan to bring a new hospital to Pittsburgh. Plus, the PSU marching band takes its practice indoors to try to beat the relentless summer heat. And KOAM's Anthony Saviello braves the heat to show us how much damage the summer sun can do to an automobile.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
New hospitals in the works for Pittsburgh. This is KOAM News at 10. I'm Dow Quick. Freeman Health System today announced plans to build a 50-bed hospital in Pittsburgh. Freeman's looking to improve rural health care accessibility and add more than 500 new jobs. The $168 million project's location and timeline are in development. New hospital would greatly help Paul Roberts, who drives his wife from Fort Scott to Joplin for chemo treatment. Saving 30 minutes of driving make a difference.
It makes it difficult if something serious were to happen. You may not make it to Kansas City or Joplin or Pittsburgh. So those are things that rural Americans have been having to deal with and live with.
We know that if we take care of the people, we don't worry so much about the competition. I think the whole entire Southeast Kansas region has come to rely upon Freeman Health System.
Currently, Freeman has hospitals in Joplin and in Neosho and other healthcare facilities scattered throughout southwest Missouri, southeast Kansas, and northeastern Oklahoma. Well, the brutal heat just goes on and on. Let's check in with meteorologist Sam Lane.
That's right, Dow. Not only just the heat, but also the humidity just keeps going on and on as well. And that's what's been creating the uncomfortable conditions. This afternoon, we made it into the low 100s, especially out towards the west, mid to upper 90s elsewhere. And into the morning, we're going to see temperatures dropping through the 80s to about 76 degrees by tomorrow morning. We are watching some moisture, though, that's going to be creeping up into our area. You can see on the satellite view, this is the remnants of Harold. It's going to be basically taking a northward track and then northeastward and then come back across our area as we go into the weekend. So there is some hope on the horizon for some rain chances as well as some cooler weather next week. Unfortunately, though, the drought is going to be worsening, and I'll tell you more about that in just a little while.
All right, we'll catch you in a few. Pitt State Marching Band had to come up with a strategy to beat the heat. The band moved its practice indoors in preparation for the first football game of the year next week. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has that story.
Nathan Basso-Dua and Lance Smith had a first-time experience this week as members of the Pitt State Marching Band. They practiced indoors in the Placer Center.
In the full 4 years I've been here, this is the first time we've ever practiced in this indoor spot.
The goal? Beat the heat.
It's very hot. You know, our foremost concern is the safety of our students.
A lot of morale just drops when the heat gets up there, and especially when we're playing, marching, and doing all this other stuff. So being in here is a really big help for just us concentrating and doing everything that we need to do for put marching on the field.
According to them, practicing indoors has other benefits beyond avoiding the hot temperatures.
The band is going to be moving more this year than they ever really have before, and it's just amazing to have this opportunity to actually work on that drill on the field.
This is turf, and the field is turf, and so we get kind of a better feel for how it's actually going to be on game days.
For game days, when being outside is pretty much unavoidable, the band has another strategy: to wear lighter clothes.
Full uniforms can get pretty hot because they're a little bit of a thicker texture, whereas we're going to be wearing just our, t-shirts and shorts and a ball hat. That way, it won't be as bad heat-wise.
We'll save the uniforms for whenever it gets just a little cooler out and a little more manageable.
In Pittsburgh, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
Nice, shake it out. How y'all feel?
Band members also interacted with the football team, even taught the athletes some PSU songs. The marching band's theme this year is Gorillas at the Oscars. For the first football game of the season, the band's going to play music from the movie Top Gun. A big event at Missouri Southern today welcomed students, faculty, and staff to a new school year and helped acquaint them with what the community has to offer. More than 100 businesses and organizations gathered at the Billingsley Student Center for Community Day. They provided some freebies and information on volunteer or part-time job opportunities.
Probably missing out for sure, There's not a lot of ways that you can experience so many different companies all in one spot, I'd say, try and make it next year, It's a great place. You can lot of different opportunities in the park.
Always important for you to just be exposed to these things, and that's what we do. We come here to be present for you, just to really make you aware of those opportunities.
Classes from Missouri Southern's fall semester began Monday. The Healthy Bourbon County Action Team today awarded nearly $50,000 in grants to local entrepreneurs. The team gave $7,000 to 2 restaurants and handed out grants to 7 women-owned, minority-owned, or low-income startup businesses worth $5,000 each. Officials say those businesses worked with the teams to develop plans to grow their businesses.
Make the daycare safer by getting a security system and getting more sensory activities and alerting systems, so that way we're not just a play daycare anymore. We'll be more focused on learning for the kids too.
The team says it's awarded a total of $195,000 in grants to similar businesses over the past 2 years. Summer sun can take its toll on people and pets inside of a car, but it can also have an impact on the car itself. KOAM's Anthony Saviello takes a look at how the heat is affecting your vehicle.
Cars are the #1 mode of transportation in the U.S., but just like humans, sometimes they can't stand the heat.
If you're going to have issues, you're going to have issues. Older cars are going to have more issues than a new car, but parts fail. New cars are going to have issues as well.
Rayson, a technician at Mike's Auto Shop, did give some tips on how to try to beat the heat.
The restart button will circulate the cool air that's already in the car versus the other button, it just pulls the hot air from outside. Check your coolant levels, make sure that they're where they need to be, and keep an eye on your temperature gauge.
However, your engine isn't the only thing you should worry about. It's also important to understand how the heat affects your car's interior. I put together a little experiment here right outside the KOAM news station. Here we have 2 of our news vehicles. Both are the same make and model. The only difference is they have a different paint color. Now on the inside they both have the same black interior, and another difference is one has a sun shield, one does not. They both started out at about 100 degrees, and we're going to check in about half an hour just to see what the difference in temperature actually is. It's been about 20 minutes. My thermometer here right now is reading about 97 degrees. We're going to put it inside our unshielded car for about 30 seconds and see what the temperature is. After about a minute of the thermometer being in the vehicle, the temperature reads almost 108 degrees. Still very hot. We'll check the other one out and see if there's any difference. After about a minute of being in our shielded car, our thermometer still reads about 105 degrees, meaning that there's only a 3-degree difference between a shielded and unshielded car, which means you need to take extra precautions, making sure that there are no children or animals left unattended in your car, because in these temperatures, it gets dangerous. Reporting at the KOAM news station, I'm Anthony Saviello, KOAM News.
Johnson also says it's important to remember that letting your car run in idle to cool down, that can cause major issues itself. Still ahead, the Miami War Dogs look to continue last season's momentum on the gridiron. John's going to have a preview of their chances coming up in sports. And
the first Republican debate took place in Milwaukee tonight. I'm Skylar Henry with the highlights and who was noticeably absent.
8 Republican presidential candidates faced off in their first debate tonight in Milwaukee ahead of the 2024 election. But one candidate, the GOP frontrunner, was noticeably absent. Reporter Skylar Henry has more.
8 Republican candidates aiming to replace President Joe Biden took the debate stage in Milwaukee Wednesday evening. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is number 2 in the polls and widely seen as former President Donald Trump's main GOP rival. He focused on his own message.
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable, it's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
But former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley pulled no punches when it comes to federal spending and the country's deficit.
The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill.
Former Vice President Mike Pence is seeking to differentiate himself from his former boss.
I think unquestionably I am the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race.
Some of the candidates are largely unknown to the voters outside of their states, like North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
The last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur.
Burgum said abortion legislation should not be decided in Washington.
We should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment.
We can't leave it to Illinois. We can't leave it to Minnesota. We must solve that issue with a 15-week limit at a minimum.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson made a promise.
I've pledged to reduce by 10% our federal non-defense workforce.
Noticeably absent from this debate was the GOP frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, who said he skipped the debate because the public already knows who he is and because of his double-digit lead in the polls. But the former president held his own audience during a primetime interview with former Fox News personality Tucker Carlson.
I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one poll, I'm leading by 70 points, and I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate, I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me. All of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense.
The first debate introduced the GOP field to voters. Now it's up to the candidates to win them over ahead of Iowa's GOP caucus in January 2024. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
8 other declared Republican candidates were not invited to the debate because they failed to meet the GOP's donor or polling thresholds. One of them, conservative radio host Larry Elder, has said he plans to sue the RNC over being left out. A little bit later, the city of Carthage cuts the ribbon on a more inclusive park.
And we're going to be taking a look at your weekend forecast, which includes some changes, so you don't want to miss that. Well, the heat and humidity is definitely staying with us for at least another couple of days, and then finally some relief. Let's take a look outside this morning at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, and as you go through the afternoon, you can see mostly fair skies this mid-morning, and then some high clouds started to move in, and that tempered temperatures just a little bit today. We were thinking we were going to be closer to 100 degrees, but I don't think anyone's complaining that we didn't quite get there. In fact, we made it up to 97 today. 80 was the low. If you want to call that a low, it's pretty actually close to the average high for this time of year. And of course, we're about 9 inches behind on the rainfall. We are still under an excessive heat warning, and that includes southwest Missouri, southeastern Kansas, and that goes until Friday at 10 o'clock. Notice northeastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, not in it right now, but that will be reissued for tomorrow. So let's take a look at the extreme heat safety tips. You definitely want to stay hydrated, take frequent breaks, and make sure that you're limiting your time outdoors if at all possible. And be sure to check on the elderly and the pets as they are more susceptible to the heat and humidity. Temperatures this evening are not that bad for the most part. They're generally in the mid-80s, 80 even in Monette for one of the coolest readings, also up in Stockton. 85 though still in Chinook right now, as well as Yates Center, and 85 for our friends down in Veneta. But look at these dew points. This has been what has made it so miserable this week. With dew points in the mid to upper 70s and low 80s, it just prevents your body from being able to evaporate that sweat on your body, so it feels extremely uncomfortable. And on the dew point tracker, we're basically above soupy conditions. Right now, when you factor in the temperature and the dew point together, it still feels like 102 in Anderson as well as Grove, 99 in Veneta, 94 in Fort Scott, a little bit cooler up in Nevada where it feels like 89. But tomorrow, the heat and humidity are going to be back and in a vengeance. 115 in Grove, 116 in Veneta, but check out Nowata. 117 is what it's going to feel like again tomorrow. And then as we go into Friday, more of the same, especially in northeastern Oklahoma with those higher dew points and temperatures feeling like 105 to 110 and even above. And then as we go into Saturday, a little bit cooler, so you can start to see the effects of that moisture moving in from the north, with temperatures feeling like in the low 100s across most of the area. Rain chances, unfortunately, are going to remain low, not only for the next 36 hours, but really for the next 10 days, and we'll show you that in just a moment. We have the high pressure center over us. That's going to be retreating back to the west, but there is moisture that's going to come up and around this ridge, and as it does, that's when the winds are going to turn around to the north and west and introduce some drier and cooler weather along with some storm chances, and that will be certainly welcome news. Temperatures tonight in the mid-70s, and then tomorrow, temperatures rising into the upper 90s to around 100 degrees once again. And then as we go into Friday morning, lows in the mid-70s, and then in the afternoon, temperatures again close to 100 with only isolated storms possible. And over the next 7 days, we're going to be looking at a better chance of showers and storms on Sunday into Monday. But look at that, Dow. Temperatures in the mid-80s and lows near 60 on Wednesday morning. That is a welcome break from this terrific heat wave that we've been experiencing.
I remember what the 60s feels like. Barely.
I do too. Yeah, in our dreams.
Yes. Thanks,
That's
Sam.
right.
Hey, Carthage residents got a sneak preview of the Park of the Future today. The Carthage Chamber of Commerce cut the ribbon for the grand opening of the playground at Carter Park. It's designed to be more inclusive for kids with disabilities through things like ramps and specially designed swings. The improvements were made thanks to a grant.
The McCune Brooks Foundation provided a grant that was worth about $5 million to help with improvement of parks like this throughout our community. There's 5 slated and this is 2 of 5.
We just want all kids to be able to come and play at the playground. You know, we want it to be a place that families want to come. And so we've never had the ADA compliance before. And so we're integrating all of that into all of our parks.
This new playground is the second of 5 being built over the summer and fall in Carthage because of that grant. Still ahead, Neosho High School football hopes to build on its success from last year, and the heat forces all high school football games in the area to be pushed back an hour. John Dales has those stories and more coming up next.
This Friday is week 1 for high school football in Missouri. That means it's the first week games can be played. Same deal next week in Kansas, but things are a little bit different in Oklahoma, where teams can play week 0 games as soon as this Friday. Now, Miami is one of those schools. War Dogs hoping to build off the momentum from last year's 6-5 record, which was the first time they had gotten into the playoffs in 14 years, but they've already had to make some adjustments on the fly because that week 0 game just got moved 3 weeks later in the season.
So today's a Wednesday for us, and going into Tuesday's practice, Tuesday morning we're preparing for a week 0 versus Dewey, and by Tuesday afternoon now we pushed that game due to the weather, just an agreement between the two schools, and now we're ready for week 1 versus Grove. So have a little bit more time to prepare for Grove, but at the same time is a whole different scheme that we're preparing for.
We got a lot of guys returning, especially that's the biggest thing. We're all older now. We got guys like Hayden Miller, Wayne Wells, draw a lot of double teams for us on the D-line, make a lot of plays for us, and then we got guys in the back like David Homer. No one gets past him, he's like a wall. It's nice to have guys back there that you can always trust during a game.
And one of the schools that has the luxury of a full indoor practice facility that it can utilize at times like this is Neosho. We stopped by their practice this evening. Wildcats, again, getting a break from the heat, still able to practice in that indoor facility, and they're coming off a 4-6 season last year. However, they had no trouble scoring the ball. Wildcats averaged more than 40 points per game. This year, the goal remains the same as always as Neosho begins their year on the road against Willard.
Ever since I got here, we've just focused on getting better every single day. And so we're just focused on the things we can control. And so we're trying to live at a standard of expectations that we want to live at every single day, and our kids have done a good job of meeting that.
This last week we've pulled it together as a team a lot. We have been flowing together as a team, and we just fixed a lot of things, and we feel a lot smoother and cleaner as a defense.
The past 2 days, it's been a grind. We've been working really hard, and I feel like it's going to work towards Friday night. We have a really good group of kids over there, and I feel like we're going to do an amazing job on Friday.
Back to how the heat is impacting some of the games. Here's a look at how the temperatures are making changes to this Friday's high school football action. Basically, all you need to know is every game being played in the area now has an 8 o'clock p.m. start time. All the ones you see on your screen. On top of that, Joplin at Branson, Carthage at Republic, Webb City's game at Nixa, those are all at 8 p.m. to name a few. Now, those are the Missouri schools with week 1 this season. You've already heard about how week 0 in Oklahoma gets impacted. Miami gets pushed back to week 3, where they were scheduled to be off. Kansas schools have jamborees scheduled for this Friday. They're all getting pushed.
Yeah, it's too hot. It's been too hot. It's going to be too hot. But hang in there, because relief is on the horizon.
That's
not too
right.
far.
Hope is just around the corner with temperatures dropping into the 80s next week, and also a chance of showers. Not a big chance, and we definitely need some rainfall as the drought is only getting worse with each and every passing day.
But you're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance. There's a chance.
We need that. Final sports note.
Yeah, Friday is the day. Tomorrow, last walkthroughs for a lot of the high school football teams in the area before starting their season amidst that 100-degree heat.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah.
Boy, it's exciting, isn't it?
It is still exciting.
Football
is
back. You got to love it. And don't forget the morning show starts at 5 a.m. and let's make it a great tomorrow.